Hello again, everybody, and welcome to our week four, I think it is, of our Gulliver
vlog.
All right.
I'm on board with the name.
I'm
getting behind the name.
So we've had a very strange week again, really, this week. We had a bit of a departure from our Gulliver preparations. And because of the fact of the weird situation that we're all in, obviously all of our shows for the foreseeable future have been cancelled, like every other theatre company. We know we're not unique. But we therefore have tried to work out other ways that we can still perform and we can still be creative and share things with you guys. So this week we worked on a very, very silly project. We made a short film about these dudes. This is number 2, this is number 1. And they feature in our short film called The Wiping Dread. Fans of The Walking Dead will appreciate the pun. It's on our channel now. If you fancy something very silly, then give them a little watch. So that kept us busy for a while. We're also working on a couple of other creative things that we can post up online soon. But we thought we would talk to you about how we wrote Gulliver. Although we touched on it in our first vlog, we thought we would go into it in a little bit more detail today.
So, one of the first things we wanted to mention, and one of the challenges that you face immediately when you're approaching any kind of adaptation, is striking a balance between being faithful to the original novel, or to the original, whatever the source material is, and making something that is appropriate and dramatic and interesting for the stage, and also something of the right length, because ideally for us it wants to be 60 to 75 minutes really at most, and that's mainly because of the places that we're able to take it to. So yeah, that's one of the things that kind of is the first challenge for us. And we write these adaptations from scratch as well. You know, they're always we go back to the original novel. We never take a script that's in existence, or we always write them ourselves.
And I think we mentioned before in the first week that the first thing we usually do with a novel is take all of the dialogue out, put it into a separate document and read it through and see whether it flows at all without the extra narration. With Gulliver's Travels, as we said, there is no dialogue. So the first thing we did with this one was actually to painstakingly go through the book from beginning to end and take out any reported speech and convert it into dialogue, whilst also giving Gulliver himself something to say, usually in some kind of narration form. We then had quite a long, but nonetheless a first draft to work from. That's always the most difficult thing, getting something on the page. Once we had that, it took us such a long time to get to that point. We needed a break from it to have any sense of whether it was working. So we took a couple of months to do some other writing for other shows that we've got coming up. And then recently, as we said before, we got Mark Collier, our other Boxtail member, on Skype. Mark Collier, he's ours. On Skype, and we did some writing with him. And the thing about Gulliver, if you know it at all, obviously he goes to visit different lands. We wanted each of the lands to feel different, so we went through it by land, didn't we? It seemed like a logical way to go through it. And we decided, in order to give each land a different energy, we would try and kind of play a game. What game are they playing in each land? And that gives the dialogue some life. It gives each land a purpose and gives us a way to write that means that they don't come across the same, then they don't sound boring.
It's got some variety, and you have a different feeling for each land, and you have something different going on. And we tend to somebody will throw out a line, we'll write down a line, then we'll tweak it after. We try not to censor ourselves too much. I think that one of the things that you said there is really key, in fact. And we've written a few scripts now, so I think we can at least offer some sense of advice on it. But the thing you said about getting something on the page is really, really important. It's so much better to just get started and start to play with it somehow than to just stare at a blank page. Once you've got something there, then you've got something that you start to move around.
We try not to judge it too soon. I think that's the really important thing, especially with a hard book, actually, because otherwise you just get bogged down. The other thing we do, with narration, obviously that's a unique element of adapting a novel, it's got narration, so we keep the narration in, and we keep it in really until first rehearsal, even when we think we won't necessarily have a narrator. We keep it in so that we know what's going to happen, then we either decide to have a narrator or to use it as we use it in movement. We say, we can see that, we don't need to say it.
Exactly, yeah. If you're being told something that you can actually see anyway, then you're wasting your breath. What are you using all those words for? My timer has gone off to stop us waffling too much, but there was one more thing we wanted to mention, which was about serving the story. And that's the other really, really important thing for us. And you said it while we were chatting about this before, in fact. One of the things we want to be able to do is make sure that if you are a fan of the original book, that you can come and see this show and feel like we've done it justice, that piece of work has been treated with integrity, and be happy that you've seen your favourite book or whatever, treated with respect. But we also want people who've never read the book or have no idea about the story to be able to come and see it. And that's a really, really key thing for us when we're writing these adaptations, is to serve the story and to think about the story that we're trying to tell. It's a bit difficult to explain that one, but for example, if you find that you've got a meandering subplot in a novel, and it doesn't serve the story that you're trying to tell in that 75, 60 minutes, then you have to be willing to get rid of it. We also want to think about what the audience is feeling and what we want them to feel as we're going along. So you're always conscious of that in the back of your mind, thinking, what effect do you want to be having on them? What do you want them to feel about this character? How do you want them to feel about their journey? How do you want them to feel as they walk out of the theatre at the end? What do you want to leave them with? And the final thing to say, I think, that is really important for writing a script specifically, is that we read it out.
Always.
When we've done a few pages, when we've done a bit, we want to check back. Always read it out. Whether it's with all of us and we can split up the characters, whatever you can do, hear it, listen to it.
Because so often what would work to read does not work to speak. It doesn't flow. It just doesn't feel right.
Yeah. Or you suddenly get the sense that you've had two characters speaking to each other in this scene, and then just two characters speaking to each other, and that's gone on for 10 pages, and it feels a little boring. It starts to drag. You need to hear it to be able to see that.
So at the risk of us waffling on any further, we will pull that one to a close, but I hope that's been in some way interesting. And next week we should have, we keep promising this, but we should have some more models and things to show you.
We've got a bit more of a plan now. We've got a timetable, so with any luck.
Back to school.
So